Hello, hello, Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast. And I am here with my good friend, my best friend, my comrade, Nicholas Buggs. Also co-founded this lovely company, Bonsai Creative. I wanted to make this extra long with additional pregnant pauses, which I know he loves. Just enough time in between each word where he thinks he can interject. But then right at the moment he might,
damn it, Jim,
I say another word.
We're also joined, Kirk, bro. That's straight up Captain Kirk.
That's right. And a good time to have Captain Kirk conversation. We have two esteemed guests with us, the one and only Nicholas Mihm, as well as, I'm going to make sure I pronounce this right, Rostam Zafari on the podcast. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Great. Thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. And why don't we look, instead of me doing some preamble and going on and boring everybody to death, why don't we just hop right in and have, we'll start with you, Nicholas, and just have you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves, background, stuff like that.
Sure. I'm Nicholas. Nice to see you guys. Nice to meet you all. I'm a filmmaker based out in Los Angeles, director, producer, editor, kind of do everything. Born and raised in Denver, Colorado. And I guess what people might have seen that I've done is a film, a feature film called In the Dark of the Valley, a feature documentary that's currently streaming on Peacock right now. And it's through MSNBC Films. And right now, working on promoting this short film that we did about Rostam's grandfather, Parviz Zafari, called Bubjan. And then also working on a episodic series with Rostam once again that follows, it's a docu-series that follows entrepreneurs and founders of companies around the world that are doing a lot of good in the world and making the world a better place. So that's what we're what we're doing and what we're working on, and just trying to stay busy.
Rostam, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, I think to add to that, some of the work that we did this past year was with the writer Brandon Stanton, who's the founder of Humans in New York, who did the longest series ever for Humans in New York on my grandfather, 54 posts, and the first one that was also in a foreign language. So he did that not only in English but in Persian. So we were really grateful for that, and also building of a human rights park in Atlanta called Mihm and Rostam Park, with a 20-foot statue of Cyrus the Great that is reflective of all these Persian ideals and values that my grandfather speaks of. So those are two recent projects that we're also proud to have been a part of.
Nick, I know you have a ton of questions for Nicholas and Rostam, and so I just want to shoot these off real quick. I think they're kind of small, potentially small. I guess they could be longer answers, but I think these are small questions that I just want to get a better understanding of where you guys come from. One, how did you guys decide that? How did you guys meet? And then after that, how did you guys decide you wanted to continue on this creative journey together, or have you decided that? Like, are you guys always going to work together going forward? Yes. A couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I hope so. Unless one of us screws up really badly and makes a terrible, terrible movie. Rostam and I first met. I was a producer on a feature doc called Helen Believe, about the Olympic wrestler Helen Maroulis. And we were shooting the last bit of that film in Greece, in Lesvos, Greece, at a refugee center. And that's where we met Rostam, and we became fast friends. He was a friend of Helen's, and kind of just we're sharing ideas back and forth. Just kind of realized there was a lot of synergy creatively between the two of us, and between a third party as well. His name's a filmmaker named Dylan Mulick, who's a great friend of ours and creator of the series that I mentioned earlier. And just kind of took it from there. And Rostam approached us about the Bubjan and Bubjan's story and Humans in New York, doing his story. And we kind of just took it from there, and it's just kind of expanded ever since. And it's been great. It's been a great partnership so far.
I heard an incredible interview with Brandon Stanton on the Tim Ferriss podcast. And the thing I took from him as an individual, and this is the guy who started and does Humans of New York, is that he just tries things and just doesn't. He's fearless. And you know he's very intelligent, so you get that right away. You get that he's smart and he's way ahead of his time. He at the time he got interviewed, he was in his early 20s. I think to me he came off like a 35-year-old, like he was on it. I mean, there were moments where you could hear the youth in some of the sort of naivete of his amazing life so far, and how things would go. But in general, I just thought, oh my God, this guy can do anything in the world he wants to do. He's unstoppable. And it reminded me of guerrilla filmmaking. It reminded me of independent filmmakers and how we have a bit of delusion that tends to work out as long as we have good taste and we make good decisions. So I am curious, did you guys notice that from him? Is that what attracted, is that part of the attraction there? And did you guys have common ground on taste? Meaning, like, did you guys find that you like the same films, et cetera, same style?
Brandon's become one of my closest friends, but he's also, I think, one of the people I've learned the most from in the last couple of years. And, I personally think Brandon Stanton is once in a generation talent. Like, I think he's a genius, and I've met, I think, 2 or 3 geniuses in my life. I've met a lot of really smart, hardworking people. But for me, he's a genius, but he also is a workhorse. Like, this man wakes up at 4 a.m. and he writes 5 hours every single day, bar none. And he talks about this when he did photography. Doesn't matter if it was raining or storming. And I got an ice bath 6 months ago or so, and then he got into it. And then he's like, I'm doing it 10 minutes every day, twice a day. Like, the guy has no chill. He has no off button, no pause button. And he puts the blinders on, and nothing else matters to him besides his story. Like, his story is his child. And when he gets into something, he sinks his teeth in. I remember he was like, I'm going to tell the story of Iran through your grandpa and the story of mythology and through this lens. And my dad was like, my dad told me, don't tell him not to do it. Like, it's a waste of time. It's a Herculean task. And some American writer, there's no way he can pull this off. And he wanted to stop the project. And I told Brandon, I said, wow, Brandon, please don't take this the wrong way. I want you to do this, man. But he asked me what my dad thought, because he cares about my dad's opinion. My dad's a smart guy, great dude, knows his history. And he's like, I'm going to win your dad over. And he goes over to my dad and sits down with him and says, give me the 20 books I need to read. And my dad's like, yeah, here's the 20 books. Wow. The guy comes back in 3 weeks, read them all, and is debating point to point, Iranian politics and parliament in 78 with my dad. And my dad comes to me later and goes, Rostam, you should be ashamed of yourself. He knows more about Iran's history than you do, and more than 99% of Iranians. And I was honored. I mean, it took me off guard, but I have never seen someone win my dad over in a month. It's taken me 27 years, and it's a pleasure to work with someone who has that kind of love and passion for his work, because it's not just a job for him. It's his life, it's his identity, and that's contagious, and it pushes everyone around him to work harder.
That is so cool.
He knows the right question to ask. That's what's amazing. He knew
really
which
amazing
question to ask.
It's like from my perspective as a person in documentaries, I thought I was a pretty good interviewer. I feel like I can hold my own with anybody in the interview chair, right? And then I saw Brandon do it, and my confidence was just shot. I was like, oh my God. He is so thoughtful and in the moment, and is he's very prepared, obviously, going in, but it doesn't seem like he's ever reading off a list of questions. It's just a conversation. It feels very natural to him. But it's so thoughtful, and yeah, it's so deep, and he really can break through a lot of barriers and make people feel vulnerable, I think. And I'm just sitting behind the scenes, listening to these interviews. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so new to this, and such a novice compared to him. So it was really great to see that type of storytelling just on another level. It was really amazing.
I think you guys will love this, because he likes throwing surprises out during the middle. He just freestyles a little bit, and he'll ask the same question 10 times back to back. And, me and my dad and my grandpa, like, he just asked the same question 10 times. But the 11th times he asked it, it cracks open the conversation to something entirely new. And then he'll surprise you. He'll be
Really?
asking me to ask the question. And then
it's an
he'll look
interesting
at my
style.
grandpa and say,
Yeah.
look at your grandson and tell him what he means to you. Tell him what you wish he knows when you're gone. And he'll do the same thing with my grandma. He'll say, tell your wife what she means to you. And my grandpa was like, I had never like looked at my
Wow.
wife in 63 years of being married, and just because that was in that generation, they didn't talk about vulnerability that way. And so at the end of this whole process,
Right.
I remember my grandpa coming up to Brandon and saying, thank you, because you helped me to look at my life in a way I've never looked at it before and explore really painful moments that I had never gone back to, that were so painful I never went back there. And I feel like I know myself better than I ever have. And to hear my grandfather, who's the wisest man I know, say that with that sense of humility, really, like, it says a lot about what Brandon can do in unraveling those layers of personhood in someone.
Nick, I know you want to hop in here, but I have to mention
you got another
the
one,
book
man? Come on, man.
Well, no, I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I'm going to
Go
actually
for
pitch
it
to you, Nick,
Okay.
because me and you talk about a book all the time. And the book we talk about is The Opposable Mind. And not a lot of people have read it or know about it, but we talk about the opposable mind all the time. It's a life hack. Go read it. You can read it in a day. And it talks about the power of integrative thinking. And I view Humans of New York, I view filmmaking, I view it all as integrative thinking. And I just thought about the fact that there was a company called Life on Record. They might still be around, but they do what you just described, which is like bring two people that are family members in a room and have them talk to each other, and you can record it. Well, the reason why Humans of New York, I think, does so much better than them is because they don't have a Brandon. And the idea they really needed was to bring in a great interviewer and then bring the family members in and then record it. They should have hired 2 to 5, 10, however many you need, incredible interviewers that can get people to open up. And then those can be some of the most powerful things recorded in someone's family tree. Like, it's huge. So Nick, I don't know if you have any comments on that or thoughts on that, but I couldn't resist bringing up the opposable mind and the idea of sometimes you have an idea that's good and you were one step away from making it great because you didn't integrate another thing.
Yeah, well, I think that's near and dear to my heart. My father-in-law has tons and tons of stories. It's awesome, and I think he's gotten accustomed to me when he comes over. I go over to his house. He's gotten accustomed to me putting my phone in between us, because right there on that phone is that voice recorder, and I just hit the record button. I'm just like, I got to capture that, and I've always thought, like, I need to capture these stories because I'll tell you this. It's one of the things that I love about my wife and I love about my father-in-law is that they seem to have memories like a steel trap, right? And I was trying to figure out why. Like, why is this a thing? And I realized that the reason for that is that they tell stories. They tell the same story maybe 1,000 times to different people, and they emote, they feel, they can smell what was cooking at the time that this thing happened, right? They remember how they felt. They remember the weather. They remember all of this stuff. And those stories, I think, need to be captured. So I've thought about it too. I'm like, man, I need to record my father-in-law telling these stories because it does also allow him to open up places that he hasn't actually thought about opening before. For example, he was in the Vietnam War, and there are things that he hasn't thought about or has put away that his kids are interested in knowing. And, I think there's an opportunity there to basically do the same thing or do something similar. So yeah, I'm all in recording these chapters, especially in our fathers and our grandfathers' lives, because once they leave us, we're left with that. Right. And you can't beat that. So I love the idea of all of that.
100%.
Yeah, it's it's this thing where the thing that stuck out to me, you just says, like, he's a great story. He has a way of telling a story. That's the value of just, no one will tell you that, but learn, and you'll never learn in school. Learn how to tell a story. Now, Nicholas, you've learned how to tell stories through the camera and through the script. But I think in general, just speaking to someone, it's the one human thing that we do that's universal. I mean, we're storytellers. And I think, there's just, do you guys know who like Charlemagne the God is? Like the radio host?
Yeah, I know
No.
who he is.
Yeah. So Charlemagne always says this thing, why believe the truth when the lie is more entertaining? And he uses it as a critique against internet culture. But the thing that's within that, the thing that's inside that is people want to be told a story. And if the truth is told to you in a fact, like a statement, but the lie is told to you as tea, as the kids say, and as like a story, then they will believe the story because the story is more human. Isn't that wild? So it's powerful. Nick doesn't care if his what do you say, your father-in-law?
Mm-hmm.
You don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care if he's lying. You're just there
No,
for the story.
I'm
You're just there for the story.
Yeah, and
You
it's
don't
and it's
care.
funny.
He could be lying.
Yeah, because I'm a fat guy. I'm it's very short and sweet and to the point. Like that's just how I've always been, right? Like it just is what it is. It's like, when my wife, I could be on the phone with you, Chris, right?
Yeah.
And Chris tells me, "Oh yeah, Nick, my son, he hurt himself." Right. And my wife is kind of hearing this. So then she'll be like, so Booby, what happened? Oh yeah, Cam hurt his ankle. But how did it happen? Like, where was he? Like, what? I was like, I didn't ask all those questions.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good point.
why am I exactly like? Why I'm not? I just that's it. But if she were to tell the story, man, it would have been like it was a rainy day. It was a Thursday, and I remember it was a Thursday because we were cooking chili on that day. And remember, my mom called. I'm like, really? Like, all these details, but all those details. Those are the smells. Those are the tastes. Those are the feels. Right. That's all the stuff that makes the story worthwhile, whether it's the truth or a lie. So yeah, I need to get better at that myself. I'll tell you the truth.
I'll tell you this. I think from our project and Rostam, it's kind of a lesson I've learned from Rostam and like things that he's said in Q&As and such is that that I've kind of taken to heart was this project kind of inspired the both of us to ask those questions to our family that maybe we didn't before. And ever since we've kind of wrapped up production and stuff, like I've started asking my mom about her mom who passed away a few years ago, and trying to get stories from Indonesia where she's from, and kind of being more curious about that, and then also asking my grandma here in the States just recently, just like, hey, where did you work? What were your jobs when you were a teenager, when you were in your early 20s? And so as I will say, I got that from Rostam and just his relationship with his grandfather and wanting to know more about like kind of where we came from and where my sister and I came from. And so it's been an enlightening process, and I'm pretty grateful for it.
I want to
really
do this
cool.
audience a solid, Nick, and feel like we've been talking about Humans of New York and Brandon Stanton, and their audience members are like, what are these guys talking about? Now, to us, we couldn't imagine it, right? It's too popular. But there are audience members out there that are going to be like, what's this all about? So, Rostam, if you can just share how you met Brandon, what is Humans of New York, and the story of your grandfather, and how it all happened and led up to the short film that's coming out. Did it already come out at the end of the 2023, or is it?
So it's gone through the festival circuit a bit. It premiered at DC Docs in Washington, DC, and played at a couple smaller festivals, and then also as well as Doc NYC in New York. And then we've got some screenings at like Big Sky coming up in Montana, which is we're really excited for.
Sweet. I hope you'll submit it to the Nashville Film Festival. It's Oscar qualifying film festival in certain categories, so I hope you'll do that too. Okay, so back to you, Rostam. Like, tell us, get this audience up to speed from the beginning. What is Humans of New York? Who is your grandfather? Why? And how did you meet Brandon? And how did you all connect this into a film?
Yeah, happy to. So if you asked me when I was 13 or 14, who is your favorite artist in the world? If you asked people in my class, they would have said, I don't know, Drake or Kanye West. I would have told you Brandon Stanton, because I was obsessed with his art since I was a kid, because I loved like humanitarian kinds of projects in general and work that spoke to that greater commonality. And it's probably because of the way, our grandparents raised all his grandkids, not me, but the things he talked about, and his art seemed to reflect that. I mean, I remember seeing this picture of as a construction worker with one arm holding something on his boat on his blog, and his question was like, "What are your problems? Tell me about your problems." And his answer was, "No problems." Right, and it's just like you got these snapshots into how other people lived, and it broke down all sorts of stereotypes and all sorts, and it just got to like the real heart of what holds us all together, right? And so, when I became, I don't know, 24, 25, like I was always looking, hey, is there anyone I can reach out to? And then someone mentioned I met him, or I have his email, and they connected us, and then I sent him an email, and I was so excited, and
Wow.
never heard back. And then 6 months later, I just thought, hey, you know what? I never heard back. I'm just gonna swing at it again, and I did. And funny enough, he said, let's jump on a Zoom call, and we jumped on a Zoom call. And outside New York, he has a place in Georgia, which is where I lived, and it was 10 minutes from my house. And so we went out for a steak dinner one night and spent 3 or 4 hours talking, and told him told him what his art meant to me, and we chatted. And he had been to Iran and had done a really cool story there of the people, right, and showing them, hey, these are not their government. Don't mistake Iranian people for this Islamic republic that's holding them hostage. And I thought that was a great service. And so people who've done that, like Anthony Bourdain himself, are people who mean a lot to me. I think their art means a lot to the Iranian people in the community. And so at the time I talked about my grandpa. He's like, your grandfather's an 88-year-old man. And I told him, but like, you have to hear what he did. And to me and our family, he's a hero. To a lot of Iran, to a lot of people, he's a hero. And he was a parliamentarian who came from a very wealthy family and said, wealth is not what matters. It's what kindness and service. And, he was a parliamentarian who, imagine a senator who takes a salary and just dumps it all back into projects in his region, and over 190 development projects. And by the time the revolution happened and all the other senators are worried about, the parliamentarians are worried about how much money to left in my bank, one of them came up to my grandpa and was like, why are you not freaking out like the rest of us? He goes, I have $14 left, $14 left in my bank account. Like I didn't come here to take from the country. I came to give back, because he really believed in service. And he was just like my grandma always says, Pyrvis, you're too much an idealist. You're too good for this world. You need to start learning the game everyone else plays. But he refused, and Brandon understood, but he goes, how do you make an 88-year-old man relevant to, a modern young American audience? Like, it's too quiet of a story. And he said, I'll do like an hour. I'll do 1 or 2 interviews. It won't take me more than 2 hours. I'll do 1 post. And he came over, and then he came over, and then he came over, and then he came over. Yeah. And he kept asking me to come pick him up and drop him off. And it was like I was picking him up from school and dropping him off. And we were both learning at the foot of the school teacher, which is my grandfather. And he told me, he says, Rostam, like, I'm at a point in my career where, I've accomplished a lot, but no story in my life has transformed me the way your grandfather has. And I think your grandpa, his impact in my life is, among the top, 3-4 individuals who shaped my life. And so to hear someone who I always idolized as a kid, who was one of my heroes, to look to my other hero, my biggest hero, and see what I see in it and share it with the world, it was extremely affirming morally and validating. And just to, pinch myself, I thank God, for the unbelievable blessing to have that moment. That's something that will always be, no matter what happens. And I'm grateful to Brandon Stanton and grateful to God and grateful to my grandfather for having that, those 9 months together.
9 months, man. That's insane. Like I'm a follower of Humans of New York too. And I got one of the books here on my shelf, and I'm thinking back, I'm like, is there any other 54-part series on Humans of New York? I don't think so, man. I think this is one of one, and it will always be one of one. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It's so beautifully written too. It's like, I knew the story, but when he released it, like, I already had made the film about it, and I was still reading it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so beautifully told. And yeah, you got to hand it to the man.
What was the timing like on that, by the way, on Humans of New York and the film? Like, when did they overlap? How'd that work?
So Rostam had called me. I don't know how far you were into the interviews, Rostam, but he had called me pretty early in the process when they were starting the interviews, I think. And I think it was, I don't forget whose idea it was, maybe Rostam or Brandon's. Was like, we should probably just get this on camera, just so your family has a record of it, right? Like, do you
Perfect.
know any filmmakers that can come out and just put it on camera? And so he calls me, and I fly down to Atlanta to do it. We all I was there to do was really put together the crew, make sure the cameras were there on time, and make sure it looked good, it sounded good. And I'm sitting back there on my laptop, as a lot of producers do, that when things are rolling, and I'm got the Comtech in, and I'm listening to the story and listening to Rostam's translations of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do we not have a post-production plan? Like, do we not have an end game for this?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
this is really fascinating, and this is really heartbreaking, and funny at the same time, and really just amazing. And so I think after day one, Rostam and I like looked at each other, and we're like, we should edit this together. Like, let's make a film out of this. Let's organize more days, like outside of these interviews. Let's do more. Like, let me come in, do my own interviews after we've kind of pieced together what where we want the story to go, and then we can kind of supplement it with other things. And let's go shoot with him out on location and stuff like that, and just really tell this story right, and let's like make a short film at least. And it could have been a feature film, I think, if we really wanted it to be. And
Still can
so
be.
it's there was just such potential after just a couple hours of hearing him speak. And then obviously I was like, Rostam, let me direct this as well, because I really want to do this. And
Yeah.
thankfully
awesome.
he trusted me enough.
And just to give the audience some background, you do have a film background. You've made a feature before called In the Dark of the Valley. You mentioned producing Helen Believe, which is a short film prior to this short film.
It's a feature film, actually. Helen Believes a feature. Yeah.
Oh, Helen Believes the feature. Sorry.
Yeah. So both of those are feature films. Yeah. In the Dark Valley and Helen. Yeah.
And Helen, both feature films. So you have this film background. You went to film school. You went to the Harbinger School of Theater and Film at ASU, Arizona State University.
I think it's called Herberger at the time. Yeah, Herberger.
Herberger. Nope.
Yeah,
that's just
Herberger.
Me being dumb. Herberger School of Theater. So it's okay. Like, the audience is used to that. So it's,
that was Chris's. What is it? Pink Panther. Herberger.
Yeah. No, that good pull. Good. That's a very good pull. So yeah, like you know what you're doing, and you felt like you could do it. But I am curious about sort of how you approached it from a story standpoint as a filmmaker. So having that experience, people are leaning on you to take these interviews and make a movie, which is different than the story you tell in an interview. What was your approach? What did you decide you would need from a crew standpoint, production design standpoint, post standpoint?
So when we originally came out to Atlanta just to shoot the interviews, like we came with the whole shebang. Like, we had multiple cameras, kind of set it up talk show style, which I don't think we would have like done if we had like a short film in mind going in.
But again, tell the audience what that is, just for people that don't.
So it was like we had
where the cameras would be set up.
Yeah. So we had a cam that was kind of a wide angle 2-shot of looking at both Rostam and Parviz kind of sitting and talking to each other, with Brandon off camera feeding Rostam questions, and they were kind of going back and forth. And then we had 2 singles for each of them. And so we just kind of got enough coverage just so we could, if we ended up wanting to edit something together, we could, and kind of sequentially. And then for the rest of the shoot, once we figured out, it's like, okay, we should make something cinematic. We should make something with really thoughtful and artful. We kind of relied on single cam a little bit just to make it a little more cinematic, and set up some things in the house, and the house itself. Like, there's not much production design you need to do. It's just there's so many things that it was ready to roll. There's Iranian artwork. There's artwork that Rostam's grandma had painted herself that was like so beautiful. There's just so many things on the walls and artifacts and things that have to do with the Book of Kings or the Shahnameh that's featured prominently in the movie. And so it was like very easy. Everything looked very picturesque. And and then it was from there, like it was kind of the biggest task was going through, the days and days worth of transcripts that we had gotten from Brandon's interview, and then just trying to see, okay, what sticks out to me. Like, I think I'm going to be telling a different story than Brandon. And we ended up telling different stories. So I was like, okay, what sticks out to me? Okay, he talks about his obsession with gardening as a kid, and an obsession that that continues now. Okay, that to me that really relates to him tending to his constituency, right, in Iran, and it's like a lot of the same attributes that he uses while gardening you can apply to his time in parliament. So I was like, okay, let's stick with that. Let's stick with the story of him, like, needing the pain he had to go through when leaving. That really sticks out. That's obviously needs to be in there. And then he talks a lot about legacy or Nam, and so that's something that really resonated with me, and it was just, it was kind of a puzzle, like, just to kind of piece those together, and it took a long time, but and then we, after we kind of had our through line and where we wanted to take it, we came back and got all the other stuff that we needed to get, and so it was a mixture of two trips that were months and months apart. But
how was long there was the
any
short film?
Yeah, the short film ended up being like 28 minutes, something like that.
All right.
Oh, wow, okay, it's a long short film.
It's a long short film.
It is, but
so
let me translate.
Were there any
28
stories?
Minutes.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
But listen. It's 28 minutes.
28.
But how long did it take to make this? You said it took a long time. You said months. I just want people to understand, right? So how many months did it take to get to 28 minutes?
Oh my gosh, it took almost a full. I don't even think we're, like, you could argue that we're not even done. Because it took maybe 5-6 months to edit the film, and maybe even longer than that. I don't even know, because we started with a wonderful editor, Azadeh Navai, in Los Angeles, and she did such a great job, like, kind of getting me started, because she's from Iran, and she was able to kind of just help me with the translations and all that, and kind of just put it together, and then I kind of took over, and we weren't really on a schedule, so I don't even know how long, like, it took me after that, but it took quite a while, close to a year probably, and then like, once the film was out, and then we released the film, and people saw it, and people people in the Iranian diaspora saw it, and then we got new footage of Parviz in Parliament that we didn't find before, and so now Rostam and I are like, this is really beautiful footage, and he can speak to what the footage is, but it was like, oh, this has to be in it. Like we have to open the project back up and somehow put it in. We just haven't had time yet, but because it's kind of a recent development, and so it's like, we're probably not even done. Like, we figure out how
that's what I want to geek out on right there. It's just like the honest conversation around the trouble that arises when you have to kill your darlings. Mm-hmm. As an editor and as a filmmaker. I'm sure that Parvi had so many great stories that you don't want to cut any of them. Right? Yeah. So I guess 2 questions coming out of it. Should you cut more stories to make it tighter? Especially if you're going to add footage, and then probably go over that 30-minute mark for what a short really is, or 35-minute mark. And then 2, are there already stories that were incredibly difficult not to leave in, that you had to cut out just to keep the story continuity going and to keep the depth of it going?
There were so many stories that we had to cut out, including, like, an injury that he had suffered during a tough time, where he injured his eye, he lost his eye. There's a lot of things that Rostam could speak to a little more than I can, but will we leave stuff out? I mean, we had to leave certain things out just because I think we wanted to keep it as singular as possible. So, it was really heartbreaking. We have his wife Mitra in it, Rostam's grandmother. We had her in it for a long time, and then we were like, okay, we're kind of distracting away from our through line a little bit, and it's heartbreaking. And then we had Rostam in it for a little bit himself, and we're like, Rostam, he's not great on camera, so let's put him in. And so so I think having that under 30-minute keeping, we had a goal. It's like, it got to be under 30 minutes. And that like really forces your hand. And it would be very easy to be like, oh, we can make it 45, right? We can make it an hour, but it's like, no, we got to make it 30. It's already hard enough to get into festivals with 30-minute film. So, there was a lot of decisions had to be made, but that's also kind of the fun part.
Which one of you guys did the score?
Which one of us? The score,
neither.
The music is an award-winning composer now. She won an HMAA award for this film. Katie Jarzbowski in San Francisco area, the Bay Area, and she worked on my feature in Dark Valley, and she's very talented, and I'm going to work with her for hopefully the rest of my career. So
right,
she's
Hollywood
a genius.
Music and Media Award. Yeah,
Awesome. She won for Best Short Documentary. She we were very, very happy and very thrilled for her.
I could imagine that the story works on a whole other level if the score is right. That's why I asked that. Mm-hmm. You have the wrong score on that thing, and it would be a slog at that length for a short film. But to have the score in there to keep pushing you forward, we've mentioned this guy before. His name's Ben Proudfoot. He does a bunch of these shorts.
Yeah, we know Ben.
Docs, and he's really, really good at making sure the score matches the tone of the conversation. His selection and taste is remarkable.
Ben Proudfoot, his films are what inspired us to do this short film.
There you go.
And we know Ben a little bit. We've seen him around at festivals and Chris Bowers and all, and so we're very familiar with their work. And,
dude, he's
Nick Bugs. What are you waiting for, Nick Bugs? What are you doing? Get Ben Proudfoot on the podcast. What are you doing?
I'm working it, bro. We might have another connection here. We've had one of his producers on.
Come on.
Hey, we've had one of his producers on. Now it's time to get to, because I'm a big fan.
They all said you were this great thing, and yet
I'm working on the thing. But I'll tell you this: it's like, if people ask about short, documentaries, I'm always sending them to Ben Proudfoot. Like, it's just
same.
It just, you got to watch, right? It's just, and the crazy thing about it is that I don't know how many times, and hopefully you guys have felt this way even with your short, and it is, it's a little bit longer than some of Ben's stuff, but I always have to go back and look at how long it was, because it's not that long. It's very short. And I'm like, I felt like I've been watching this for 2 hours. Like, I know so much about this character. I feel for this character. I feel like I know the environment. I've been there. And I look back and I'm like, this is only 18 minutes? Like, are you kidding? So I just, Breakwater Studios.
I showed Rostam. I think this is how I kind of sold you on it. Not that you needed much push, but I sent him Concerto's Conversation, which was one of my favorite shorts. Then I had the privilege of seeing their latest film, The Last Repair Shop, at Doc NYC this year. And that one, I could tell in his Q&A, he was like, this is a long one. It's 45 minutes. And it was like, you could tell it pained him. Like, because it's his longest film.
It's very long.
Yeah, huge fan.
Yep. Love Ben. Nick, what do you got?
So we got to pitch it to Rostam just to get some of this. There's a lot here before we go out to Papa Bear for some things we should know. But in addition to the story of Bubjan, which means grandfather, right? We also have, I think you said before, there's a foundation, there's an organization that also is behind all this, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because I think that that's very important for the context of this story as well.
Absolutely. So the name of our nonprofit is Nimruz, which is from the Book of Kings, and it's a land where the heroes get together to fight injustice, and it really focuses on cultural activism, focusing through art and education, because culture is not neutral. I think culture either exploits and attacks, or it uplifts and it defends. And for a long time, Iranian culture has been under attack because the whole country is held hostage by an Islamic dictatorship called the Islamic Republic. And so if you can't, actually, when they took over, they banned the Book of Kings. They banned the Shahnameh, right? They're scared of books. And people who are scared of books, I've learned historically, are the worst kinds of people. And so if they're not going to, if the country there, the government is anti this culture, who is going to protect it? A lot of these people who fled and escaped, It's real trauma. They being Iranian for a lot of people for a long time was, you know, uh, a target on their back. They didn't want people to judge them or mock them. And you have in the U.S. you had, this just this look towards all Middle Eastern people as the other. And I want us to take our dignity back, to stand up tall, to walk proud. We come from a rich heritage, a civilization that's over 3,500 years old, with some of the greatest philosophers, artists, musicians, poets. We've contributed so much to the global pantheon, and yet that's been kind of lost. And so I think that before we can take our country back, we have to take our culture back and our values back. And those values are things that we find in Persian history and in our poetry and the Book of Kings. And so Nimruz is a dedication to that. It's cultural activism. It's talking about art. It's supporting education. It's supporting aid. So the work we've done, whether it's been supporting refugee camps in Lesbos, Greece, where Iranians who've fled to Afghanistan are now fleeing from Afghanistan, largely women and kids who are facing the threat of the Taliban, for example, or whether it's supporting the building of schools within Iran through a partner nonprofit, or whether it's talking about the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings, and getting it mainstream. And so, like, we work with an artist right now, and I could show you this, who sends me, he's doing pop-up books, and he's like, hey, I'm teaching the kids, American kids in third grade in Brooklyn, about the Book of Kings. And there's third graders, and they're drawing all these pictures of our phoenix, of our heroes, right? Of Zal and Rudabe and Bijan and Rostam. And he's so excited, this artist. He goes, this school in Brooklyn taught my Book of Kings to their students. Look at the wall. These are third grade illustrations from the book. They all know about our heroes, and they're obsessed with the Seymour. These are all American kids, right? That, to me, is truly the work of culture. Yeah. It's not screaming in a silo to the 10 people who already understand what our culture is. It's really taking that to the people and really uniting us. Because I think nothing will unite us the way culture can unite us. And that's true for any people. And I think what the Iranian American community is doing is what any community should do. And that culture is not something to say, hey, we're better than anyone else. It's saying, hey, we're just like you, and here's the things that you celebrate like us, and how can we grow together and tap into that deeper humanity. And so that's what my grandpa spent his life doing. And I'm hoping that's what I started this with my cousin, my oldest cousin. And I hope that we can help, and all his grandkids can continue the legacy of the man we know to be the truest hero for us and for a lot of other people who know him.
So, believe it or not, I actually spent some time in the Baha'i faith, and that is a faith that started and came out of Iran, and I actually had a Baha'i wedding as well. And I sort of learned about this division that exists between Persians and Arabs. So can you explain to the audience what that division is or isn't, and what the fight is about, and how through sort of your work with the nonprofit you hope to sort of overcome that within sort of your Iran's own space, if it can be overcome?
Well, I think the question you asked, there's more to it, because the Baha'i faith is a form of Islam that's a minority within Iran that's been under attack by the Islamic Republic, just the way other religions are, like Judaism or Christianity or people who have of no faith. So Baha'is are targeted, and they're completely abused within the Islamic Republic of Iran. But I think the if you're talking about the Arab Iran difference, there's people who might point to modern Islamic Republic and say, oh, they're Shiite, but a lot of the Arab states are Sunni. But that would be missing the bigger picture, which is Iran is not Iran's history. It's not rooted in Islam. Iran, Islam was forced on Iran 1,400 years ago by Arab invaders and conquerors who brought it with a sword and said, people who don't speak Arabic, we're going to cut out your tongues, and made Arabic the language of the courts and suppressed. And that's why you see so much of Iranian culture came up in the underground. Like if you look at Zurkhune, which is the word for the gyms, they do all these trainings with these movements, and they do it with poetry, and they keep their culture alive. And those are all kind of warrior training movements. Like there was this whole underground scene, and that's why the oral tradition was passed down. These epic poems are tales to remind ourselves who we were. And so the Book of Kings, which was written by Ferdowsi in about 1,000 years ago, and more than that, about 1,000 or so AD, captured the pre-Islamic history and mythology and philosophy of Iran, because Iran's first religion, the first monotheistic religion in the world, was called Zoroastrianism, and it came out of Iran, and that was, let's say, 1,000 years before Cyrus the Great. So that is the root that Iranians now are going back to, which is a national identity, saying, hey, you don't force us into a religion, don't focus into a box. We are a nation, we are a country, and we want to celebrate that plurality, whether it's sexual preference, whether it's faith, whether it's, whatever it is. And I think that is the misconception that a lot of people have. They think Iran Muslim, whereas that's not the case. Iranian people have a history that they go back to their Persian roots and their Persian identity and their pre-Islamic. And that's why I think so much of the work in culture is in education is harmful, because they pull in Persian history and Iranian history and they call it Islamic history or Islamic studies. That's like calling, let's say Western history Christian history. Like you couldn't just whitewash it in that sense. And so that's what we're reawakening people to and helping educate them and saying, hey, and they're not against each other, but I'm against any culture or any group that says only our way, because that's not freedom. And Iran in the old days was referred to as Azadegan, the land of the free, right? And so I think freedom is one of those ideals and virtues that we have to really say, this is a red line for us. We are not willing to ever give this up as a part of our identity.
Man, that is huge, man. I did not know that. I did not even know that saying existed. And I think people view Iran as a sort of a monolithic place, maybe even Middle Easterns as a monolithic place that has this one ideal. And I love the work you're doing because it shows it. How can I say this? It identifies and aims to sort of separate Iranian people, but maybe all the Middle Eastern people from this oneism that that benefits Western politicians sometimes and benefits Western power sometimes, to say that's the enemy or they're like this, and you miss out on all this rich history. And by the way, I think there are some Christian organizations that would conflate Western history with Christian history incorrectly. And I think, sort of bucking back against that is great too. We should bring in producer Papa Bear. Producer Papa Bear, let's bring in producer Papa Bear for this edition, the latest edition of Things We Should Know.
Oh God.
Guaranteed to be something we don't know, guaranteed to make us all look foolish. Except for Nicholas and Rostam.
Because they should know it. And
they will probably
because they're the ones who should know it. So as you can tell, I'm putting additional pressure.
And our aim is to educate. We want to educate our audience.
While educating me and Nick.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because
actually, I have
Rostam and Nicholas already know it.
Yeah, I have two tonight.
Okay.
One for Nicholas and one for Rostam. But I mean, we're all going to answer it.
Okay.
You're all welcome to pitch in, but one, flavored for each person. All right, for Nicholas's area, we've been talking about documentaries. So, who first coined the term documentary, and in what year?
That's
Get on it, man.
That's easy. That's like Dr. Frederick documentary in 1835.
That's right, obviously.
1835, before cameras. I like
Yeah, that's right.
That's a tough one, producer Papa Bear, because that's not necessarily a Nicholas Mihm specific question. That is
that's his field.
It is
right.
Okay,
So you should know it, bro.
I
Come
wonder
on,
if
man.
Ken Burns. I wonder if Ken Burns could answer
Yeah.
that question. I'm
Right.
curious. If you ever have it on the podcast,
let's
I
ask
Dude,
guess.
if you see Ben next time, ask him that question, and you'll
Ask
know
him
the
that
answer.
question, and you'll know the answer, and it'll be, you'll give him a thing he should know. Okay, so Nicholas's answer is 1835 by Dr. Doc Mentor.
Friedrich
Mentory.
Right.
Rostam, what do you got? What do you think?
For the documentary question?
Yes.
He's like, I'm not answering that question.
Oh.
Just give us a year. Give us a year.
Yeah, just give us the year.
First documentary. I don't even know when the camera was.
No, who coined the year the term was coined? There
Oh.
were documentaries before,
Right.
but this
But who
is
coined the term?
who coined the term and in what year.
They weren't called documentaries, and then one day we started
That's
calling
right.
them documentaries.
They were first called actuality films.
Well, it's like
God,
it's
that's
like
a thing we
movies.
should know right there.
Well,
Oh my
it's
God.
also
I'm
like
writing that one
movies,
down.
Well, it's a
movies
document
with people
that we
talking. Yeah, right. It was like movies with
Actuality
people
films.
talking was called a talkie.
You know, today we call
Yes.
them reality films or reality TV.
Actuality films. That's
Yep,
it.
you had
That's
actuality
1927.
films.
That's my guess.
1927. There we go.
Okay, we got 1835, 1927. Mr. Bugs, what do you got?
I'm going to go 1943.
1943.
Right.
I am going to go, that's during World War II. I can see why you would want to coin the name. We had the shift from the word propaganda to public relations right around 39, 38. So in another good time to shift the name actuality films to documentary. I am going to piggyback on Nick's logic here, and I'm going to say, because it took them 4 or 5 years to get all that footage from World War II out of post, 1946.
I was going to say, he's going to go over, he's going to go under, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
1946, and we're gonna pick Carl Weiss. No, I'm just kidding. Carl Weiss was the
Right.
one who coined it. No, I don't.
German.
And listen, wait. I'm going to go
I don't think he's
this
old enough to
route.
coin
I
it,
don't
right?
know the
He
name,
might be.
but I'm going to say it was a woman who coined the term documentary.
Okay, I'm writing this
1943.
down. Nick says woman. Nick
I'm going to say
says
white guy over the age of 60.
Okay, I got Rostam saying white guy over 60. Women didn't have rights back then. Well,
But
wait,
women
19 no, after
ran
1920, after
film for a
suffrage.
long
Yeah.
time in the beginning. So I'm just saying.
White
I'm
guy
gonna-
over 60.
I'm going to stick with a physician in the early 1800s.
Yes,
There you go. He's sticking
Nicholas
with it.
Mihm
He
is
had a-
sticking with
he-
Frederick.
And remember, he had a
Documentary.
monocle. Just want to let y'all know that he had a
Yeah.
monocle.
Frederick Mentory.
That's
Frederick
right.
Mentory did it.
Dr. Frederick
Dr.
Documentary.
Frederick
That's right.
Mentory. All right,
I
Papa
think
Bear,
you're
give us the
thinking
answer.
about antibiotics, Nick.
Right.
No. You'll see when this. I'll get it right.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right. Exactly.
In actuality, Rostam is the closest because it was a Scottish-born filmmaker named John Grierson
Oh.
in 1926.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He almost nailed it. He
Wow.
almost was spot on the.
Yeah,
if you would
he
have guessed the
was.
actual year, you would have got full points for that.
Yeah,
that
that
is
would have
insane.
been. That would have meant. But hey,
John
look.
Grierson, you said, how do you spell Grierson, Papa Bear?
Grierson. He was born in 1898 and died in 1972.
Oh, good life, man. Good
But
life.
listen. I like this thought process that Nick had, though. I like it because I know, Nick, you called him. His last name was Documentary, but I would have actually made his last name Umentary. Why would I do such a
yes.
thing?
Yes.
Because he was a doctor, so I would have called him Documentary.
Dr. Umentary. Yeah.
Dr.
Right, I would have called him
Umentary.
Documentary. Come on, bro.
My time in improv class is not paying
See?
off these days.
Anybody want to guess what was the first original documentary film?
So it
was
precedes
it,
1926.
Was it the? No, that wasn't a documentary. Though that was a.
And it's one we've talked about before on this podcast, I
Um,
believe.
I bet it has something to do with the flapper girls of the 20s. Something
Well,
sexual,
wait.
something about women's sexuality. Something in that in that space, something like erotic.
How?
What is it, Papa Bear?
Wait. I'm
Well,
gonna go
this-
Nanook of the North.
Nanook.
Nanook of the North. I think I gave him that clue when we said we talked about it before. That's correct. Nanook of the North. And
job,
Nick,
Nick.
do you know what year that came out?
Oh man,
1919.
Wait. Was it 1922?
Yeah, it was about Eskimos, not sexy girls.
Right. Was it
The Roaring
1922?
20s, man.
Hey,
The
and
Roaring
wait.
20s brought us not.
What year
Nanook
was it?
of the North?
Was it 22?
22.
22. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one thing y'all didn't know.
We talked about
Sadly, Nanook died like
Yeah.
very soon after that documentary came out. Died of starvation.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
They treated him like National Geographic. They don't
Yeah.
save you, bro.
Right.
They're
They
not
don't say
saving
they're-
you.
They take
No.
their film, they take their crew and get out of there.
That's right. That's
Good
right.
luck, Nanook.
Yep, exactly. So yeah,
That reminds me,
Man.
everybody should watch the new season of True Detective with Jodie Foster. It's
Watched
amazing.
episode 1.
That
Yeah.
was that crazy or what, Nicholas? Like that was
Yeah.
a nut. So I loved it. I'm ready.
This
Let's
completely new direction I'm in.
Yeah.
That's my stuff right there.
Go. My wife said, "Where's the next episode?" I say, "They're not. It's not out." She was pissed. She's become accustomed to like the next Netflix life where you can just watch the
Binging.
next episode. I was like, "Not here, man. They're making us wait," and rightfully so. Okay, Papa Bear. Question 2 for Rostam. This is one
Okay.
he should know.
Well,
You should.
Right.
what was the first ethnographic documentary which depicted the lifestyle of Iranian nomads?
Mm.
And what year was it made or produced?
Oh man.
Wow. I didn't know this film existed.
Yeah, me neither.
Right.
Well, you should, because
Wait, listen.
it was preserved in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress
Wow.
as being culturally and historically and aesthetically significant.
That's a lot of significance.
Well, Library of Congress probably watched Prince of Persia and thought it was the ethnographic documentary.
Well done.
Yeah, well played, sir. Well played.
Well played.
But I will say this is probably significant because when they were doing not only documentary films but narrative features,
Yeah.
the portrayal of the Middle East was way off. Right? There was this
Yeah.
imagination of what it looked like and what people look like. Like they didn't never go there. They're like, this is what we think it looks like. And that documentary probably flipped filmmakers and the industry upside down because it was like, nah, this is what it for real looks like. And they're like, y'all don't know what y'all doing. You're gonna have to redo the sets. You're gonna have to tear that stuff down because it's not legit. So yeah, I'm sure it has some significance in the film industry alone.
Okay, so Papa Bear, this is a name. We need a name and a year, right?
Well,
Name and a year.
Rostam is gonna go for the year because you don't know the name.
I'm just going year as well. I'm gonna go. The year is 19. When was the when? Let's see. I'm gonna go 1959.
Papa Bear, did you say ethnographic study of Iran?
Documentary which depicted the lifestyle of Iranian nomads, and in what year was it produced?
Okay. Chris, I think
I'll tell you,
Is it more modern then?
I'll give you a little descriptor. The team of Ernest Shodsock and Marion Cooper accompanied a Bakhtiari tribe with 50,000 fellows and numerous livestock on their 6-day cooch across the raging river and over the highest peak of the Zagros Mountains in hope of finding green grazing fields.
I'm gonna guess it's slightly newer, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess like 1975.
I think that's a really good guess. I think I went too old as well. I think it's more modern.
Could you get away with that as a more?
Well, I just think that it would be harder to take a crew there, like earlier in the history of filmmaking, right? Like it'd be maybe harder to make that movie.
Well, when you say crew there, when I listen to the names of the people, the filmmakers, are they even from here?
No, they're not from U.S. But I'm saying that it would be, to me, it would be, I don't know, it'd be harder to document. The cameras would be heavier. Everything would be bigger. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're thinking of Babylon.
Yeah.
The movie Babylon.
Babylon is so good.
So, all right, yeah, this one's got me because it's the same thing. Like it's a historical precedent. It's a huge kind of shift in the zeitgeist around the Iranian people. I don't know. It's hard. I don't know.
All right, we'll let
it's Rostam. Throw your date out there, and then we'll let Papa Bear.
And then we'll let Papa Bear drop the real truth on us.
I don't know. My guess would be 1970. The reason is before Reza Shah, it was called Persia. So the fact that it's Iran tells us, it's Reza Shah or Mohammad Reza Shah. I think Reza Shah was too busy fighting off the Cossacks and the Russians and the English and all these things. Mohammad Reza Shah invested a lot of time expanding and showing Iran's culture to the world. The largest celebration of all time was the 2500th anniversary of the Achaemenid dynasty. So I think it sounds like something he would want to do, but I don't know. So 1970 is my final answer.
Okay. The film was called The Grass.
Well, that's on the nose.
Yep.
1925.
Oh my God!
Look at that.
Our instincts are brutal on this.
I knew that there was because it was in the Library of Congress, it shifted things, but I don't know if I would have gone that soon after Nanook of the North. Like, wow!
Shout out to Warren Harding.
Yeah,
shout out to Warren Harding, because all these great movies are happening during his administration. And all he does is get shit on by everybody in the public eye. He's considered one of the worst presidents of all time. Shout out to Warren Harding, the filmmaker's president.
Remember, he's on the East Coast.
Back then.
This was a silent film, and the two producers were the same ones that made the King Kong. Later made King
Kong. All right, so I'm good. I'm glad they got their paycheck, man.
Wait!
They lost money on the grass.
I got something for you. Something for you on that.
They
one.
Definitely made it all back with King Kong.
Y'all gotta ask Brandon if he knows the answer to that question.
We will ask him.
Probably.
Yeah.
By the way, the cool thing with the two things that you mentioned the Zagros and the Bakhtiari tribe. So the Zagros Mountains are actually where the first trace of beer in the world was discovered. And the Bakhtiari tribe is famous for they have these Bakhtiari rugs.
No,
so as they travel,
I want to know this.
they weave rugs, and so their rugs actually tell the journey of their people, which to me is a really beautiful image for what culture does. It's a tapestry, and they do that as they journey. So that's a pretty fun fact about Bakhtiari.
I think that's awesome, and it makes me think about all these giant palaces that are up and around Europe, and every room sort of depicts a different place, and how to have been considered royalty and to be cultured meant that you sent your kings and your princes and your courts to other countries, and you took some of their culture and brought it back to your palace. And if you guys, anybody that's been to Europe or gets to go through Europe, you'll see as you go into the palaces, not the cathedrals, but the palaces, you'll see a lot of Iranian culture, Persian culture, Middle Eastern culture, Asian culture inside the palace, because it was what you couldn't do or get if you were a commoner. So people from the beginning of time have borrowed from the culture and sort of wowed at some of the things those cultures create. Before we wrap,
well, hold on. I got one more. I got one more for you.
Okay, go for it, Nick.
Yeah, because Rostam mentioned this tapestry of the journey, right? And it made me think of something. I'm like, I made a tapestry of my childhood on this wall behind me.
You sure did. You sure did. You sure
I'm
did.
like, I never thought about it like that. Like, what? Like, that's
When
wanna
you
know a
talk
little
about it
something
like
about me,
that,
bro. That's me right there.
That is
when you
awesome.
talk
That's-
about it, when you
that's
talk about it
childhood
like that, Nick,
years.
you remind me of Robin Williams from that Photograph movie, where he was like the dude developing all the photographs, and it was really sad at the end because he was telling you the meaning of a photograph.
Right, yeah.
And I'm just seeing your childhood on the wall. I want to shed a tear.
But Rostam doesn't want to shed a tear. He's excited about this, man. Like
I'm pumped,
he
man.
dropped
I'm
this in
amped.
my head.
Yeah. No, the way you put it right there was very beautiful, Nick. And I appreciate you sharing that with the world
Yeah,
on this
emoji.
very
Yeah.
podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, look at all the things that warmed your heart, and things that you wore, and things that broke your heart. It's all on your wall in the form of a Lego tapestry.
That's right. I love these conversations, man. Like, it's so reveal. You get to reveal so much of yourself in these discussions. That's what's so great about it.
Yeah, it is. It is true. And Papa Bear, thank you so much for these always illuminating and always very difficult questions and answers that make us smarter every day. And before we wrap, I do want to I know you guys were on the festival run together with your short film. Am I pronouncing this right? Bubjan? Is that how you pronounce it? Pronounce it
Bubjan.
better? Bubjan. Yeah. So just almost just how it sounds. So Bubjan. That's Bubjan. And look at it. Look for it at a festival near you. I do want to just ask, what is next for you guys after this? Any ideas on the horizon? Anything you guys are considering making, feature-wise or otherwise?
The Bubjan is still going to continue festivals. Its next screening is in at Big Sky in Montana, Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, which we're really excited about.
What part of Montana is that in?
It's in Missoula.
Missoula, okay.
Yeah, and so it's a festival I've always wanted to go to, and been
Man, you're gonna love Montana.
Really
if you
excited.
haven't been before.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't go because we'll be shooting this show that Rostam and I are producing together, and about entrepreneurship with a mission, a positive mission in the world, and then developing.
What's that series named? Do you guys have a tentative name?
We don't.
For the
We have
series?
It's a tentative title, so we can't really tell you. It could change. I've been asked not to share its current title.
Okay,
but it's through an amazing production company. Our production partner is Religion of Sports, out here in LA, which is Tom Brady and Michael Strahan and Gotham Chopra's production company. And they're putting the feelers outside of sports and expanding their storytelling. So we're really grateful for them, and we'll be shooting all over the world this coming spring. And then with my director of animation, who worked on the animation in Bubjan and in The Dark of the Valley, we're developing a short documentary, completely animated, about physician and doctor burnout in the medical industry, nursing burnout. And so that's something we've been working on for the last year, developing and doing interviews with doctors and nurses across the country. And we're really excited for that one. Completely animated, so it'll be really visually amazing, and we're excited about it.
Who's your animator?
Her name is Elise Kelly in Washington, D.C. An amazing animator. She's at Sundance right now promoting a film that she was the director of animation for, and has done some amazing work, and definitely should go check her out. Elise Kelly.
Man, this has got to be the last year, Nick, me and you don't go to Sundance. Like, for real. Like, I'm so mad that we're not there right now. We got to get in there and do our pitch workshop or something. We got to tell them what's up so we could be around this goodness. But that's exciting, man. I'm so happy for you guys, and well, just totally wish you the best and continue success in everything you're doing. Dr. Burnout is probably one of the most ignored problems in healthcare, not by people in healthcare, but by the general public, because they view doctors as the ones that have power and money within the healthcare space. But I think there's a report that says somewhere around 60% of all doctors are in a state of burnout. And this is really, really bad. Really bad. and it's bad for everyone should pay attention to it because, as one of my mentors once told me, you too will end up in a hospital one day. So you have to make sure that the people that are treating your grandma and grandpa and your mom and dad in the hospital, keep them on their P's and Q's, because one day that will be you. And we got to keep the standard high in healthcare.
Well, the next one for me is teacher burnout, because you're going to be sending your kids to school, right? All the kids go to school, and we need to help these teachers as much as possible, at least, respect what they go through. Because my mom was a teacher as well. And just the stories about the numbers of things that she has to do between lessons plans, dealing with parents, it's just highly unappreciated from many different sectors of society. And it's just, so yeah, that's your next one, man. You do the doctors and the nurses, head over to the teachers.
Yeah, I mean, we've done hours and hours of pre-interviews with people all over the country, and it's pretty remarkable the stories that you hear and just how they're treated, and so hopefully we get to interweave a few of these stories and make something really powerful and hopefully game changing. Who knows?
Yeah, thanks for doing
you guys
that,
got
man.
any? You guys, indeed. You guys have any Oscar picks?
Oscar picks. Gosh, who
any movie you think?
I already forget.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what the noms are, but is there a movie that sticks out in your mind as the best thing you saw in 23 or early 24?
I'm a huge Oppenheimer fan, so I think, or Chris Nolan fan, so I think Oppenheimer is pretty good. With Barbie, I watched so many movies this year that were so good. I just saw, was it Poor Things the other day, and American Fiction was probably one of my favorite movies of the last while. Probably. I think American Fiction might be up there for me, actually. I think that was
the thing I love about American Fiction is that it's just a movie, man.
It's just a movie.
Like,
it's so
good.
Get
you get a sense that they could have made that for $1 million. Like if they didn't have to pay Jeffrey Wright, they have an amazing cast in it, but you that I think it was made for 10 or 15. You have to know that 80% of that was just the cast.
Mm-hmm.
Because the movie, it's just a movie. And I just love the fact that they do it all through smart writing and great performances.
Yeah, it's really wonderful.
What do you got? What's the best movie you saw last year?
Hands down, The Boy and the Heron.
Yes,
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I love animated films. I loved working with Elise on Bubjan, and we're working on a few other projects together. I just think it's an incredible platform that it feeds your soul and feeds imagination. Like, even seeing my grandpa's chapters of his life that I've heard 100 times before, but seeing it just does something for you. So I want to explore more in that medium. And then for Bubjan, I'm really inspired by the Cunard Film Foundation. I think they're now called Life Stories, and they're they're doing this project where they're archiving these really incredible leaders like Brian Stevenson and others like that, and they're sharing their work. And not only do they tell powerful stories, they create the art, but then they use the art to educate and inspire others. The film that premiered with us, called The Silent Witness, was against nuclear war, and it told a real life account of someone who had their whole family wiped out by it. And fantastic film. And but then they have a guide, which whether it's middle school or high school or college, can use this and adapt it and then teach their students. So art, creating beautiful art is important, no doubt, but actually using that and getting into people's homes and hearts that's a huge challenge too. And oftentimes we leave that on the table. So I haven't that's something I'm really excited about with Bubjan, which is how do we tell that? And then there's of the 30 hours of interviews, we've only used 5-10 minutes in the film. So I want to splice the rest up and create a short series that people can watch to go deeper into the culture and to have more questions. So I just want to keep going back to that. There was so much richness in it, and find ways to educate and inspire young people, both Iranian and non-Iranian, through that. So that's my goal, at least.
Yeah, inspire, educate, and if you happen to entertain on the way, that's icing. That's a cherry on top. So
I think it all comes back to culture in the end, right? For me, there's two. There's culture, there's Iranian culture for sure, but the things love about Iranian culture are things like equality, freedom, justice, standing up for people, which is those same values apply to physician burnout, to teacher burnout, to whatever you do. And I think the thing I'm most interested in tackling in my lifetime is the culture of wealth, because I think it's the most sinister form of oppression, where we all, lust after wealth and power versus loving each other. I think those things are completely mutually exclusive. And one of my mentors said once to me that the economy is a subsect of society. Society is not a subsect of the economy. And what we have, the problems we face, and we're talking about both in the foundation series, both in the physical physicians of burnout, versus in Bubjan, is what happens when a society becomes held hostage by values that love power and wealth more than they love people. And so that's what I think art needs to negotiate, interrogate, and provide a moral imagination for how we can be better.
Yeah, well, he see, Chris, he just dropped that on us, and he
completely agree with him. By the way,
I know, but we got to stop this conversation because we could wax poetic on just this subject for the next 2 hours, bro. Like, I'm just gonna drop it because you and I, Chris, have had this conversation about just music, and I will just say music in the Black community, and it exemplifies everything that you're saying about the things you should not be looking towards as your master, as your God, right? And I think that's what's happening right there in that community. Again, like I said, I could go on a whole conversation about that because, we both completely agree. And if you can have something that I don't want something to balance that out. I want something to burn that out, right? Like if there can be quality art and education that tells you about what the truth and the culture, the human connection is, the human connection doesn't exist in physical things, right? It doesn't exist in this space of separation. It doesn't exist in this space where I am better, or I am greater, or I got this stuff on my own. No, man, we can't survive that way, right? Like Chris alluded to earlier, we're storytellers because that's how we took our traditions. That's how we took our histories. That's how we take our lives and impart that on other people's hearts. So we can't do that if we create music or any kind of other art that separates us from one another, bro. Like I'm saying, like I could keep going. I'm not.
It's an amazing point, Nick. And I have real concern about the Black community, especially the younger folks. It's split down the middle still, just like the old classic Chris Rock joke. So it's one of these things where you listen to the music, and if the music is really a reflection of the youth culture coming up, we're in big trouble. We might be over. And I think back as a musician myself, I think back to like, Runaway by Kanye West, where he had sort of a very, very long vamp where it was all sort of vocoder and the words were unintelligible, but the sound was beautiful. And I think it sort of ushered in this sort of era of feeling where I'm here to feel something, not to learn or hear the words. Like I don't need the words. I don't need to be right. And that wasn't Kanye's intent, I don't believe. But what came right after that was Post Malone and like Drake and all the people who would sing to you and make you feel a certain way within the music. And then you go and read the lyric book and you're like, what are they talking about? Like, this is ridiculous. And now it's gone to a place where the lyrics are so vapid and so repetitive and so every song's the same. Chris, where basically, honestly, labels have seen what's making money and have decided to reproduce that.
Yeah, and the new word is, that's a vibe.
Yeah,
because the beat is hot, but the words are trash, right? It's like, no, you don't have to worry about the words. Like, don't worry about that. It's a vibe, right? You feel that? No, bro. Like, you can go.
Well,
go read a book.
We're in the age of the vibe and the whole thing of like gives me feels of. And I think there's a space for it, but it shouldn't be the dominant culture. And I always go back to what the artist Sia said, which is, pop music is just indoctrination. So you have to sort of get beneath that. And I always thought that was incredible for her to say, since she is a pop artist. But there's a reason she doesn't show her face. It's because they wouldn't let her, because she wasn't pretty enough. She didn't fit the indoctrination. So to go a level below and find music that really speaks to you, because those artists are out there. Nicholas, can you tell us where we can find you on social media, on the internet, where we can absorb and consume some of you guys' work or your work? Let the people know.
Yeah, I'm not that huge on social media, but you can find me on Instagram. I think it's N_Mimsy. And then, nicholasmim.com is where you can see the rest of my stuff and get info about the other movies.
Beautiful. Rostam?
Yeah, it's at Rostam Zafari, first name, last name. But more importantly, at Nimruz, Nimruz official. That's where you can find what we're doing there. And just one note on what you guys mentioned on music is one of the projects we're doing right now is with one of Iran's top rappers. And he raps about what's happening in human rights and politics. Like it's such a higher level than like what you would expect. And he's training the next generation within Iran. And so this album is like 14 different people from different parts of the country. And I think that's how we can all be part of this kind of cultural warfare and putting out the art. And just, I'm really excited when I see examples of that bridge building happening. Because you talk about, young Black people, they need to look up to the older Black artists who've got it right. They need those mentors. Same is true with Iranians, right? And so, sorry, I was really inspired by what y'all were just talking about, and it really fired me up because I love it. And I think music is such an incredible way to do that.
I'm here for the Iranian immortal technique. Like if we can get that,
let's do it. Yeah,
I'm down for that 100%. Like Nick said, we could talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is we definitely need to do a round 2.
Yep.
But I'm just going to spell some of this out for the audience, by the way, Rostam, so they have it. So it's ROSTAMZAFARI for social and for
That's
Googling right. And all that stuff. And then if you can spell out the foundation, it's a Nima. Can you spell that out for everybody?
Yep.
Or Nimruz, sorry.
It's at NIMRUZ official.
That's the social handle. Instagram. Is there a website?
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's nimruz.org is the
.org
website. Sorry.
Got it. So you got Nimruz official and then nimruz.org as the two places to find and support, right?
That's right.
And is the best way to support money, or is it?
I think sharing the story that we've put out there, sharing our social media. I mean, if someone is able to support, we'd love the help. But I think
right.
Watching the film, going to the screenings like that. That's what means. Tell your friends about it. That's what means a lot to us.
All right, you know what to do, folks. NIMRUZOFFICIAL. That's Nimruz official on Instagram. Go to nimruz.org again. NIMRUZ.org. Go support with your time, energy, and of course your dollars. If you can do it, if you can't, just like Rostam said, share it, send it to a friend, forward the link, do your thing. And in terms of us, the Make It podcast, you can find us wherever great podcasts are listened to. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We have a somewhat new but awesome and wonderful YouTube page. All you have to do to find us there is search for the Make It podcast and we'll come right up. If you want to get in touch with Nick, you can email him. Brave man. Nick at bonsai.film. That's BONSAI.FILM. Some people will put bonsaifilm.com. No, bonsai. It's bonsai.film. And I know we're messing with you with that, but we thought it was clever and we're sticking to it. You can reach out to me on X at Flame in Your Heart. Your is spelled UR. But you can also find me just by searching for my name, Chris Barkley, and I will come right up. I will answer, and Nick will answer 100% of those responses and comments. So do reach out to us there. You can find us on social media on Instagram and on the aforementioned X at _Make It Podcast. And so do reach out to us there. We also have a handle at _Bonsai Creative. Although that handle isn't long for the world, but you can find us there still and leave us comments and DMs as well. We're on Facebook at the Make It Podcast. So if you search for us at the Make It Podcast, we will come right up on that as well. Nick has a new Reddit, and we are taking all sorts of questions these days on Reddit. It's been really wonderful. Nick, can you share your Reddit?
Yeah, it's so easy. It's just Nicholas Bugs. That's it. Actually, it's my name. Like I'm not Wizard72 at whatever. Just Nicholas Bugs. You can find me there.
I just went down for saying that.
I just wanted people. Yeah, I just wanted people to know. Like that's the dude that's on here. That's the dude that's on the podcast. Simple, right? Nicholas Bugs on Reddit. And I want to make sure that people understand one more thing, and I need Rostam and Nicholas to understand this. When you tell people that you are on our podcast, I need for you to enunciate, because make it If you say it too quickly, sounds like naked. It is not the Naked Podcast. It is the Make It Podcast. Naked, make it. It
Y'all
sounds too
aren't that
close.
lucky.
Exactly.
What's funny,
no
Nick,
twig and berries, bro.
Is
No
the
twig and berries.
reverse of that, which is where they thought they were joining the Make It podcast, and then they find out they were joining the Naked podcast.
Exactly right.
And we are undressed. We're completely naked
Right.
when they join the podcast. It's like, we think we joined the wrong podcast.
It's like,
This
what are you guys
is
doing?
Make It, right? No,
Yeah,
no,
right.
this is Naked.
Right.
See, we're
So
naked.
Just make
Get
sure
undressed.
you enunciate. It is the Make It Podcast. Okay.
Absolutely.
Naked podcast.
And,
Okay.
Yeah,
Can I say,
right.
Mama, you made it?
You're right.
you can find out everything else about us and our company and this podcast and how to be part of the community and join us on this journey of independent filmmaking at bonsai.film. So www.bonsai.film. While you're there, go up to the top right, click on newsletter. We have a bi-weekly newsletter. It's incredible. We pull things from the esoteric and all around the world from indie film that are hard to find. We put it all in one spot for you. We always share a cool short film or commercial or something you should see that some great indie filmmaker made. So do subscribe. It's completely free. And again, that is www.bonsai.film/subscribe. Or you can just go to the website, click newsletter, and subscribe from there. And so with that, Nick, can you please leave us with the credo?
Man, this is what I do at the end of all these conversations that we have with these wonderful filmmakers. And, you know, I don't want to leave Rostam out. I say filmmakers. He points to Nicholas like he's the filmmaker. Bro, you're a filmmaker now. You got to accept it, right? You're part of Bubjan. That's part of your legacy. You are a filmmaker too. So for our friends, our fans, our fellow filmmakers out there, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
Nicholas,
We'll do it again.
Rostam, thank you, brothers. Appreciate you. Talk to you guys soon, all right?
Yep.
y'all.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Peace, everybody.